Admiral Hyunwoo Park stood in the Great Council Chamber on Nexus Prime. The massive room could hold 10,000 beings from across the galaxy. Today it felt empty, even though every seat was filled. The air tasted bitter in his mouth. 200 years. That was how long Earth had been part of the Galactic Council. 2 centuries of peace, trade, and friendship. Now it was ending because of lies. "The charges against Earth are serious," said the Althari speaker, the energy being floated. Above the center platform, its blue light pulsing with each word. Illegal weapons development, breaking expansion laws, aggressive behavior toward peaceful species. Hyunwoo wanted to laugh, but his training kept him still. Aggressive? Humans had stopped 3 wars between council members in the last 50 years. They had shared their terraforming technology freely. Earth colonies had never attacked anyone. Ambassador So-Jin Lee stepped forward. She was small compared to most beings in the chamber, but her voice carried clearly. "These charges are false. Earth has always followed council law. We have proof that—" "The council has already voted," the Althari interrupted. "Earth is expelled. All human colonies must leave council space in 90 days. The chamber erupted. In noise. Some species cheered. Others looked shocked. The Vorthak delegation walked out in protest. But the decision was final. So-Jin Lee raised her hand for silence. When the noise died down, she spoke again. "You think casting us out makes you stronger. You think removing us solves your problems. But you have made a mistake." She paused and looked around the chamber. "You cast us out because you fear us. Not because we are aggressive, but because we grow too fast. Because we ask too many questions. Because we will not bow to your old ways." The Kethavar representative hissed in anger. "Humans always think they know better than their elders." "Sometimes, the young see what the old cannot," So-Jin replied calmly. "You believe you diminish us today, but you have only freed us from the chains of your fear and your endless rules." She walked toward the exit, her small human delegation following. At the doorway, she turned back one last time. "When you realize your mistake, you will find us, ready to talk. But we will never again accept being treated as lesser beings." The chamber doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. On his ship in orbit, Captain Jae-ho Kim received the emergency signal. His exploration vessel, New Seoul, had been mapping star systems at the edge of Council space. Now everything had changed. "All human ships," came the message from Fleet Command. "Operation Homecoming is active. Evacuate all colonies and outposts immediately. We have 87 days. Jae-ho stared at the message. 87 days to move millions of people across hundreds of star systems. It seemed impossible. His communications officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we're getting similar messages from every human settlement in this sector. They're all asking the same thing. Where do we go?" "Set course for the nearest colony," Jae-ho ordered. "We'll figure out the rest as we go." Back on Earth, Fleet. Admiral Mi-young Choi stood in the war room deep beneath Seoul. Holographic displays showed every human settlement in the galaxy. 847 colonies across 200 star systems. 50 million people who called those distant worlds home. "The evacuation fleet is ready," reported Colonel Nam Tai-jun. "We have transport ships standing by at every major colony." "But Admiral, where are we taking them? Earth can't hold 50 million refugees." Mi-young smiled for the first time in days. "We're not bringing them to Earth, Colonel. We're taking them somewhere better." She touched a control, and the display changed. A new star map appeared showing a region of space far beyond the galactic rim. "Project Sanctuary. We've been preparing for this day for 60 years. The Colonel's eyes widened. "The Haven Cluster. But that region is empty. No one lives there." "No one lives there because the Council thinks it's worthless," Mi-young explained. "Poor resources, unstable stars, dangerous radiation. At least that's what we told them." She highlighted several star systems in the cluster. Dr. Han Woo-jin's teams have been secretly surveying that region for over a century. It's actually rich in rare minerals and perfect for human settlement. The council never bothered to look closely because they assumed we were telling the truth about it being useless. The evacuation began 3 days later. Human ships appeared at colonies across the galaxy like a coordinated swarm. Families packed their lives into transport containers. Children said goodbye to alien friends. Workers shut down factories and farms they had built with their own hands. At New Busan Colony, 5,000 light-years from Earth, Park Sang-ho helped load the last transport. He had been born on this world. His children had played in its purple grass fields. Now they were leaving forever. "Will we ever come back, Dad?" asked his daughter Minji. Sang-ho looked at the colony one last time. Human buildings mixed with the native crystal formations. Gardens where earth plants grew alongside alien flowers. 20 years of building, gone in 3 days. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But we'll build something new. Something better." The transports lifted off, joining the convoy of ships heading toward the galactic rim. Behind them, the automated systems began shutting down the colony's power grid. In a few days, New Busan would be dark and empty. Similar scenes played out across human space. The evacuation was massive but orderly. Humans had always been good at working together in crisis. They proved it now. Admiral Hyunwoo Park oversaw the operation from his flagship Incheon Rising. Reports came in from every sector. The Vorthak had offered to help transport human civilians. The Zephyrians provided fuel and supplies. Even some Althari individuals had sent private messages of support, but the council itself remained silent. They watched the exodus without comment. 80% evacuation complete, reported his aide. The outer colonies are empty. We're pulling back the core worlds now. Any interference from council forces? Hyunwoo asked. None, sir. They're staying well clear of our operation zones. That was something, at least. The council wanted humans gone, but they weren't monsters. They would let the evacuation proceed in peace. On the bridge of his transport ship, Dr. Han Woo-jin reviewed the final preparations for Project Sanctuary. The advanced teams had been working in the Haven cluster for 10 years, building basic infrastructure and scanning for the best colony sites. The first wave should arrive in 16 days, his assistant reported. Temporary shelters are ready for 2 million people. The mining stations are operational. We can start immediate resource extraction. Woo-jin nodded. What about the shipyards? Construction begins as soon as we have enough materials. Admiral Choi's specifications are ambitious. That was an understatement. The plans called for orbital shipyards larger than anything in council space. Ships designed with new technology that pushed the boundaries of known science. It would take years to build, but when finished, humanity would have a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The last transport left council space on day 89. 50 million humans were now traveling toward an uncertain future beyond the galactic rim. They carried with them everything they could save: technology, knowledge, culture, and a burning desire to prove their worth. Ambassador Sojin Lee stood on the observation deck of her ship, watching the last council beacon disappear behind them. Her aide approached nervously. "Ma'am, some of the colonists are asking questions. They want to know what happens next." Sojin turned from the window. "Tell them the truth. We're going to build something new. Something the council will remember forever. What if we fail? Then we fail as free beings," Sojin replied. "But we won't fail. Humans don't know how to give up." The convoy of ships continued its journey toward the Haven cluster, carrying with it the seeds of humanity's future. Behind them, the council celebrated the removal of their problem. They believed they had made the galaxy safer and more stable. They had no idea what they had unleashed. 3 years had passed since the great exodus from council space. The Haven cluster no longer looked empty and dead. Human ships moved between 5 new worlds like busy insects building a hive. Commander Tai Min-yoon stood on the bridge of the test ship Daegu-1, watching the largest construction project in human history. The orbital shipyard around New Busan stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Thousands of workers in spacesuits crawled over its metal skeleton like ants. "Ready for engine test, Commander," reported his pilot. The woman's name was Han So-young. and she was one of the best pilots in the new fleet. Taemin nodded. Begin startup sequence. This was not like the old ships humans had used in Council space. Those vessels followed Council rules and Council designs. They were safe, predictable, and slow. This new ship was something different entirely. Dr. Nam Yeon-soo had called it consciousness interfacing technology. Taemin called it magic. When he sat in the pilot's chair and put on the neural crown, the ship became part of him. He could feel its engines like his own heartbeat. The sensors became his eyes and ears across space. Neural link established, So Young reported. All systems showing green. The ship moved forward smoothly, not with the jerky motion of traditional thrusters, but like a living thing swimming through space. Taemin thought about turning left and the ship responded instantly. He imagined more speed and the engines surged. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It's like the ship knows what I want before I do." "That's exactly right," came Dr. Nam's voice over the comm. She was monitoring from the control station. "The AI learns your thought patterns. After a few hours, the interface becomes seamless." Taemin pushed the ship harder, testing its limits. The new quantum tunneling drive engaged with a sound like singing crystals. Space folded around them, and suddenly they were 50,000 kilometers away from where they started. "Tunnel successful," So Young announced. "Travel time, 0.3 seconds. Back on New Busan, Chief Engineer Kang Hyejin watched the test results on her screens. The consciousness interface technology was working perfectly, but it was just one part of humanity's new approach to space travel. "Show me the production numbers," she told her assistant. The holographic display changed to show manufacturing data, 5 worlds working together like parts of a single machine. New Busan built the ships themselves. Daegu Station developed new technologies. Incheon Prime grew food for the growing population. Gwangju Haven trained the new military forces. Ulsan forged mined materials and built smaller components. "We're ahead of schedule," the assistant reported. "The first squadron of Taegeuk-class battleships will be ready in 6 months." Hyejin smiled. The Council had expected humans to disappear quietly into the outer rim. Instead, they were building the most advanced fleet in galactic history. President. Donghyun Lim walked through the gardens of Incheon Prime thinking about the future. The planet was beautiful, with rolling green hills and purple-leaf trees. Human settlers had learned to work with the native plants instead of replacing them. "The Fendari trade mission has arrived," his aide informed him. "They're requesting a meeting." The Fendari were the first non-council species humans had encountered in the Haven cluster. They were traders and wanderers who lived in the empty spaces between civilizations. Most importantly, they had no love for the Council. "Bring them to the main conference room," Lim ordered, "and make sure they see our shipyards on the way." An hour later, he sat across from 3 Fendari representatives. They looked like tall, thin humans with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. Their leader, who called himself Merchant Captain Veltar, seemed impressed by what he had seen. "Your ships are unlike anything in Council space," Veltar said in accented English. "The quantum tunneling drives are particularly interesting. How do you achieve such precision?" "We're happy to share our technology," Lim replied. "In exchange, for information and rare materials." "What kind of information?" Lim leaned forward. "Tell us about the other species out here, the ones the Council conquered or ignored. We want to meet them." Veltar's large eyes grew even wider. "You want to contact the Lost Worlds? That could be dangerous. Many of them have been hiding from galactic politics for centuries." "We're not politicians," Lim said. "We're humans. We believe every species deserves freedom and respect." The Fendari captain considered this for a long moment. Then he smiled, an expression that looked strange on his alien features. "There is a water world called Thisakala. The people there are peaceful, but Kethvar raiders have been attacking them. The Council does nothing because the Thisakala are not members." "Give us the coordinates," Lim said immediately. Back in the orbital shipyard, Admiral Mi Young Choi reviewed the fleet construction reports. 50 new ships were taking shape in the construction bays. Each one incorporated human innovations that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. The AI cores are the real breakthrough, explained Dr. Nam Yeon-soo. Each ship will have a unique personality that bonds with its crew. They'll be able to coordinate in ways that traditional fleets cannot. Show me, Mi-young ordered. Dr. Nam activated a simulation. On the holographic display, a squadron of 12 ships moved through a complex battle scenario. They flowed around each other like dancers, covering weaknesses and amplifying strengths. When one ship was damaged, the others instantly adjusted to compensate. It's beautiful, Mi-young breathed. And deadly, Dr. Nam added. These ships don't just follow orders. They think, adapt, and learn. A human fleet with consciousness interfacing technology will be like nothing the galaxy has ever seen. News of the Thisakala situation reached Admiral Kyungmin Seo within hours. His diplomatic mission fleet was already prepared for launch. 12 ships with full consciousness interface systems and the most experienced crews in the new fleet. What do we know about the raiders? He asked his intelligence officer. Standard Kethvar tactics, the officer replied. Hit-and-run attacks. On isolated settlements, they take prisoners for slave labor and steal resources. The attack started 6 months ago. And the council's response? Nothing. The Thisakala aren't council members, so officially it's not their problem. SEO felt anger burning in his chest. This was exactly why humans had been expelled, because they cared about justice more than politics. Well, now they were free to act on their beliefs. Prep the fleet for immediate departure, he ordered. We're going to show these raiders what happens when they attack innocent people. The journey to Thisakala took 8 days using the new quantum drives. The water world was beautiful, with vast blue oceans and scattered island chains. But sensors showed the scars of recent attacks, burned settlements, and abandoned cities. Contact the local government, SEO ordered. The response came quickly. The Thisakala were indeed aquatic beings, graceful creatures that looked like a cross between dolphins and humans. Their leader, called flow singer Nalthis, appeared on the main screen. Unknown ships, she said in musical tones. Identify yourselves. We have suffered enough attacks. I am Admiral Kyungmin Seo of the Human Confederacy, he replied. We're here to help. The Fendari told us about your situation. Humans? Nalthis seemed surprised. But you are council members. Why would you help us? We were council members, SEO corrected. Now we're something better. We help people because it's right, not because of politics. The Thisakala leader was quiet for a moment. The raiders will return soon. They come every few weeks to steal our people and our resources. We have no weapons to fight them. You do now, Seo said firmly. Show us where they attack. The answer came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected a Kethvar fleet approaching the system. 40 ships armed for raiding and equipped with slave transport modules. All ships, SEO announced to his fleet. This is what we trained for. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for everyone the Council has forgotten or ignored. The human ships moved into formation as the Kethvar fleet entered the system. The raiders were confident, expecting to face helpless civilians or primitive defenses. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Commander Yoon's ship, Daegu 1, led the attack formation. As the consciousness interface systems engaged, he felt his awareness expand to include the entire squadron. He could sense his fellow pilots as clearly as his own heartbeat. Engaging enemy fleet, he announced. But his voice was calm, almost casual. The interface made combat feel natural. Like breathing. The Kethvar never had a chance. The human ships moved with impossible coordination, striking from multiple angles simultaneously. When the raiders tried to adapt, the human formation simply shifted into a new configuration. How are they doing that? Screamed the Kethvar fleet commander over the intercepted comm channels. No fleet moves like that. Within 20 minutes, 38 Kethvar ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 2 fled toward the edge of the system, broadcasting warnings about the terrifying new human technology. Admiral Seo opened a channel to the Thisakala government. The immediate threat is over, but we'd like to discuss a more permanent solution. What do you mean? Asked flow singer Nalthis. Join the Human Confederacy, Seo said simply. We protect our allies, all of them, no matter how small or distant. Captain Sunho Bay had been exploring the Outer Rim for 2 years now. His ship Jeju Wind was one of the fastest vessels in the human fleet, equipped with the latest consciousness interface technology and quantum tunneling drives. Today he was about to make history. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, announced his sensor operator. Unknown ship configuration, not in our database. Sunho studied the readings. The vessel was large but graceful, with flowing lines that suggested an artistic rather than military design. It was clearly not built by any council species. Open a communication channel, he ordered. All frequencies. The response came immediately. The being on the screen was tall and elegant with silver skin and forearms. Its voice was melodic but spoke perfect English. Greetings, strangers. I am Trademaster Quillanor of the Fendari Merchant Fleet. You travel in ships I do not recognize. What people are you? I am Captain Sunho Bay of the Human Confederacy, Sunho replied. We're explorers from beyond the Galactic Rim. Humans. Quillanor seemed interested. We have heard stories. You were cast out by the Council, yes? Yet your ships appear to use technology far advanced from anything in Council space. We've made some improvements since our exile, Sunho said with a slight smile. We're always interested in meeting new peoples and establishing trade relations. The Fendari traders' four eyes widened. Trade? With humans? This could be most profitable for both our peoples. Within hours, Sunho's ship was docked with the Fendari trading vessel. The aliens were fascinated by human technology, especially the quantum tunneling drives that allowed near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. Such speed, marveled Quillanor as he examined the drive specifications. We could cross the entire Outer Rim in days instead of months. What would you want in exchange for this technology? Information, Sunho replied. We want to know about the galaxy beyond Council space. What peoples live out here? What challenges do they face? Quillanor's expression grew serious. There are many peoples in the Outer Rim. Some chose to live beyond Council control. Others were removed when the Council expanded centuries ago. Not all removals were peaceful. Tell us about them. The Fendari trader activated a holographic star map. Dozens of systems glowed with different colors. The Thisakala are peaceful water dwellers, beautiful singers and artists. The Mordak live in asteroid fields and mine rare metals. The Velkori were once a spacefaring empire but were conquered by the Council long ago. What about threats? Sunho asked. Kethvar raiders operate in this region. They attack isolated worlds and take slaves. The Council knows but does nothing. These worlds are not Council members. Sunho felt anger rise in his chest. This was exactly the kind of injustice that humans could not ignore. Show me where the raids happen. 3 days later, Admiral Kyung-min, SEO received Sunho's report at human headquarters on New Busan. The information was troubling but not surprising. The Council's protection only extended to members, leaving dozens of species vulnerable to attack. Prep a diplomatic fleet, SEO ordered his staff. We're going to visit these lost worlds. All of them, sir? As many as we can. It's time the galaxy learned that there's an alternative to Council rule. The first stop was Thisakala, the water world that Quillanor had mentioned. As Sunho's report had indicated, it was a beautiful planet of vast oceans and scattered islands. The people were graceful aquatic beings who communicated through musical tones. We welcome you, humans, said flow singer Nalthis, the planet's leader. But we are confused. The Fenadari say you were expelled from the Council. Why would cast-outs help us? Because being cast out was the best thing that ever happened to us, Admiral Seo replied. It freed us to do what's right instead of what's politically convenient. And what is right? Protecting innocent people from those who would harm them. Nalthis was quiet for a moment, her large aquatic eyes studying the human admiral. The raiders will come again soon, they always do. We have no weapons to fight them. You do now, Seo said firmly. The conversation was interrupted by alarms. Admiral, called his communications officer, we're detecting multiple ships entering. The system. Configuration matches Kethvar raiders. CO smiled coldly. Perfect timing. All ships, battle stations. The Kethvar fleet consisted of 40 ships, a massive raiding force designed to overwhelm any resistance the peaceful Thisakala might offer. They entered the system confidently, broadcasting demands for surrender and tribute. Unknown vessels, came the harsh voice of the Kethvar commander. Withdraw immediately. This world is under Kethvar jurisdiction. This is Admiral Kyungmin Seo of the Human Confederacy, came the reply. The only jurisdiction here belongs to the people who live on this world. You have one chance to withdraw. The Kethvar commander laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Humans, 12 ships against 40. You must be insane. No, Seo replied calmly. We're just better than you. Colonel Boram Jang commanded the human battle formation from her ship Soul's Pride. As the consciousness interface systems engaged, she felt her awareness expand to include all 12 ships in the squadron. Her fellow pilots became extensions of her own mind. Engaging hostile fleet, she announced. But her voice carried no tension or fear. The neural interface made combat feel natural and flowing. The Kethvar attacked in traditional formation, a direct assault meant to overwhelm through superior numbers. They had used these tactics successfully for centuries against helpless civilian populations. But humans were not helpless civilians. The 12 human ships moved like a single living organism. When the Kethvar concentrated fire on one vessel, it seemed to melt away through the formation while its companions struck from unexpected angles. When the raiders tried to surround them, the human formation simply flowed into a new configuration. Impossible, screamed the Kethvar commander. How do they coordinate like that? No fleet moves with such precision. Colonel Jang's ship danced between enemy fire while her weapons struck with surgical accuracy. Around her, the other human vessels moved in perfect harmony. Through the neural link, she could feel their intentions as clearly as her own thoughts. Target their command ship, she ordered. But the order was unnecessary. Her squadron was already moving to execute the maneuver. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it ended, 38 Kethvar ships were either destroyed or disabled. The remaining 2 fled toward the edge of the system, broadcasting frantic warnings about the terrifying new human technology. This is impossible, one survivor transmitted. They fight like they share one mind. Admiral Seo opened a channel to the Thisakala government. The immediate threat is over, but we should discuss long-term protection. What do you propose? Asked Flowsinger Nalthis. Join the Human Confederacy. We protect our allies, all of them, regardless of size or location. The offer was accepted within hours. Word of the battle spread quickly through the Outer Rim trading networks. Within days, delegations from other lost worlds were requesting meetings with human representatives. The second contact came from the Mordak asteroid miners. They were small, tough beings adapted for life in zero gravity. Their leader, Forge Master, Thekvar, met with human diplomats in the asteroid field they called home. We heard about Thisakala, Thekvar said bluntly. 40 Kethvar ships destroyed by 12 human vessels. Either the reports are lies, or you have technology beyond our understanding. The reports are accurate, replied Ambassador Sojin Lee, but technology is only part of it. The real difference is that we fight as one. Show us. Lee activated a holographic display showing the battle footage. The Mordak watched in amazement as human ships flowed around enemy fire like water, striking, with perfect coordination. How? Thekvar whispered. Consciousness interface technology. Our pilots share awareness through quantum-linked neural networks. Each ship becomes part of a larger whole. And you would share this with allies? We share everything with allies, Lee replied. Technology, protection, resources, knowledge. The Confederacy is a family, not an empire. The Mordak joined within. The weak news of the growing human confederacy reached Council space through Fendari traders and refugees from Kethvar raids. The reports were dismissed at first as exaggerated stories from primitive Outer Rim species. But when a Kethvar fleet commander arrived at the council capital with only 2 surviving ships from a 40-vessel raid, the stories became harder to ignore. "You're telling us that 12 ships defeated your entire fleet?" asked the Althari Council representative. "They moved like nothing I've ever seen," the Kethvar commander replied, his reptilian features showing genuine fear. "Perfect coordination, impossible precision. It was like fighting a single entity with 12 bodies." "Describe their weapons." "Standard energy weapons, but deployed with surgical accuracy. They never wasted a shot, never missed a target. And their ships, they flowed through space like living things, the Althari energy being pulsed with concern. This matches reports from other sectors. The humans are not simply surviving their exile. They are building something new. In the council chamber, emergency sessions were called to discuss the human problem. The Kethvar demanded action against the species that had humiliated their raiders. The Molduin hive mind calculated threat assessments and found them disturbing. The news reached the Althari Council chamber like a poison spreading through water. Human influence in the Outer Rim was growing beyond all predictions. 43 species had joined their so-called confederacy. Their fleet now numbered over 500 ships. Most troubling of all, they were offering technology and protection that the Council could not match. "This cannot continue," declared High Speaker Zarthon, the eldest of the Althari energy beings. The humans were cast out to prevent exactly this situation. Around the chamber, representatives from the major council species voiced their agreement. The Kethvar hissed their anger. The Molduin collective mind calculated threat scenarios that all ended badly for council supremacy. "Direct action would make us appear to be the aggressors," warned the Vorthak representative. "Many of our own members sympathize with the humans." "Then, we do not act directly," Zarthon replied. "The humans harbor criminals, the Thisakala refugees who fled their proper place in the galaxy. They interfere with lawful Kethvar operations. They destabilize the established order." The Molduin Queen voice spoke with the authority of a billion minds. "The Hive calculates a 73% probability of success if we act as galactic police rather than conquerors. We restore order to the Outer Rim and remove the human threat." "Approved," Zarthon announced. "Assemble a police action fleet. 500 ships should be sufficient." 3 weeks later, Admiral Chang Ho Ryu received the warning from his scouts. At the edge of human space, a massive Molduin fleet was approaching the Haven cluster. 500 ships in perfect formation, their insectoid hulls gleaming with bioluminescent markings. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported his communications officer, "demanding we surrender all criminal refugees and submit to council authority." Chang Ho studied the tactical display from his flagship Busan's Thunder. The third human battle fleet under his command consisted of 120 ships, impressive by old standards, but badly outnumbered by the approaching force. "Send a reply," he ordered. "Tell them that the Human Confederacy recognizes no council authority. Any aggressive action will be met with appropriate force. Sir, they outnumber us more than 4 to 1. Chang Ho smiled coldly. "Numbers aren't everything. Prep the fleet for battle stations." The Molduin fleet entered the system in textbook formation. Queen Admiral Vexthari commanded from the bioship Eternal Swarm, a living vessel grown rather than built. She had never lost a battle in 2 centuries of service. "Human vessels," she broadcast. "You are outmatched. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." "This is Admiral Chang Ho Ryu," came the reply. "The only thing being surrendered today will be your illusion of superiority." The battle began at extreme range. Molduin energy weapons reached out across space, but the human ships seemed to dance between the beams. Their formation flowed like liquid mercury, impossible to pin down or predict. "How are they moving like that?" demanded Vexthari. "No fleet has such coordination." Her tactical officer consulted the hive mind's calculations. "Unknown, Queen Admiral. Their ships respond as if controlled by a single intelligence." That was exactly what was happening. Admiral Chang Ho and his fleet commanders were linked through the consciousness interface network that Dr. Nam had perfected. 120 ships moved with the precision of a single organism. "Execute Delta Pattern 7, Chang Ho ordered. But the order was redundant. His fleet was already flowing into the new formation. The human ships struck like a school of fish attacking a larger predator. They concentrated overwhelming force on isolated Molduan vessels, then scattered before the enemy could respond. Within minutes, the first enemy ships were exploding. "Impossible!" screamed Vexthari. "They're moving faster than our targeting systems can track." The consciousness interface technology allowed human pilots to react at the speed of thought. When one ship detected a threat, every ship in the fleet knew about it instantly. When a weak point appeared in enemy formation, the entire fleet moved to exploit it simultaneously. "Ma'am," reported the tactical officer, "we've lost 60 ships in the first hour. The humans have lost none." Vexthari felt something she had never experienced in battle: fear. All ships concentrate fire on their command vessel, but identifying the human command ship was impossible. The consciousness interface made every ship equally capable of fleet coordination. Admiral Chang Ho's flagship was just one node in a network that spanned the entire battle. The turning point came when Fleet Admiral Mi-young Choi arrived with the strategic reserve. 5 massive Sol-class dreadnoughts dropped out of quantum tunnel space, each one larger than a Council space station. "Sorry we're late," Choi announced over the fleet channel. Traffic was heavy. The Sol-class ships were marvels of human engineering. Each one carried 3,000 fighters in its hangars, along with enough firepower to level continents. But their most impressive feature was the swarm fighter system. "Deploy all fighters," Choi ordered. The space around the dreadnoughts exploded, with activity as thousands of tiny craft poured from their hangars. Each fighter was piloted by an AI linked to the consciousness interface network. They moved in perfect harmony, like flocks of starlings turning as one. Queen Admiral Vexthari watched in horror as 15,000 human fighters swept toward her fleet. Each swarm moved with impossible precision, covering and supporting the others. It was like facing a force of nature rather than a military formation. "All ships emergency retreat," she ordered. "Fall back to the system edge." But retreat was not possible. The human fighters were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Molduan fleet. They swarmed over the bioships like antibodies attacking an infection. Commander Ju Hyuk-yang led one of the fighter wings from his modified interceptor. Through the consciousness interface, he could feel the positions and intentions of every craft in the swarm. When he turned left, 1,000 fighters turned with him. When he dove toward an enemy ship, the entire formation followed. "This is incredible," he transmitted to his wingman. "It's like we're all part of the same creature." "We are," came the reply. "That's the point." The Battle of Haven's Gate lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 450 Molduan ships had been destroyed or disabled. Fewer than 50 escaped to carry word back to Council space. The human fleet had suffered 12 damaged vessels and 0 casualties. Queen Admiral Vexthari's escape pod was picked up by a human rescue ship. She found herself face-to-face with Admiral Chang Ho Ryu in his medical bay. "How?" she asked simply. "How did you coordinate so perfectly?" "We stopped thinking like separate individuals," Chang Ho replied. "We learned to think as one people with one purpose. It's not natural. No species should have such capability. Maybe that's why we're winning." News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. The mighty Molduan fleet, the same force that had conquered dozens of worlds for the Council, had been utterly destroyed by a smaller human force. On the Council homeworld, emergency sessions convened to discuss the disaster. The Kethvar demanded immediate military action. The Althari calculated the probability of victory and found the numbers disturbing. "They're not just building ships," reported the intelligence chief. "They're creating a new form of warfare. Our traditional tactics are useless against their coordination." "Then we adapt," declared High Speaker Zarthon. "We learn their methods." "That may not be possible," the intelligence chief replied. "Their technology appears to require neural modifications that our species cannot survive." In human space, the victory celebration was brief. President Dong-hyun Lim knew that the Council would not accept defeat quietly. They would return with Larger fleets and new tactics. How many species have requested membership since the battle? He asked his aide. 37 in the last week, came the reply, including some from Council space itself. That was the most significant development. Species that had been Council members for centuries were beginning to question their allegiance. The Vorthak had formally protested the attack on human space. The Zephyrians had offered to mediate between Council and Confederacy. The old order is cracking, Lim observed. They tried to destroy us and only made us stronger. Dr. Nam Yeon-soo reported to the presidential palace with news of the latest breakthrough. Her consciousness interface technology had evolved beyond simple ship coordination. We can now link multiple fleets across different star systems, she explained. A commander on New Busan could coordinate ships fighting near the galactic core. How many ships can the network handle? We don't know the upper limit yet. Theoretically, there may not be one. The implications were staggering. A human fleet anywhere in the galaxy could be supported by every other human ship simultaneously. Traditional concepts of distance and communication lag became meaningless. There's more, Dr. Nam continued. The network is beginning to show emergent properties. The AIs are learning from each other faster than we can track. They're developing new tactics and strategies independently. Is that dangerous? Not to us. The AIs are still bound by human ethics and goals. But they're becoming more creative, more intuitive. It's like having a million genius tacticians working together. 20 years had passed since humanity's exile from the Council. Admiral Subin Park stood on the bridge of her flagship New Earth, watching the stars beyond the observation windows. She was the daughter of the late Admiral Hyunwoo Park, who had witnessed humanity's banishment all those years ago. Now she commanded the largest fleet in galactic history. The human confederacy had grown beyond anyone's dreams. 847 star systems now flew the Confederacy flag. 43 different species called themselves Confederacy citizens. What had started as a refuge for exiled humans had become the dominant power in the galaxy. Admiral, called her communications officer. We're receiving emergency transmissions from across the galaxy. Something big is happening. Subin studied, the reports flooding in from their network of allies and scouts. The data painted a terrifying picture. Ships unlike anything in the galactic database were appearing at the edge of space. Massive geometric forms that moved without visible engines and destroyed everything in their path. The Devourers, whispered her science officer, reading from the ancient database. The old legends were true. Subin had heard the stories, an extra-galactic machine intelligence that consumed entire civilizations, stripping worlds bare and moving on to the next target. Most species considered them myths, cautionary tales told to frighten children. How many ships? She asked. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They're entering the galaxy from multiple points simultaneously. The holographic display showed the scope of the invasion. Devourer fleets were attacking both Council space and Confederacy territory without discrimination. Ancient species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were being swept aside like insects. Ma'am, the communications officer reported, we're getting a priority message from the Council. They want to talk. For the first time in 20 years, the Council was requesting dialogue with humanity. Subin smiled grimly. They had spent decades trying to destroy the Confederacy. Now they needed human help to survive. Put it through. High Speaker Zarthon appeared on the main screen. The ancient Althari looked diminished, his energy form flickering with exhaustion. Admiral Park, we must speak. I'm listening. The Devourer. Fleets have destroyed 37 Council worlds in the past week. Our traditional defenses are useless against them. They adapt to every weapon we use, learn from every tactic we employ, and you want our help. Yes. The admission clearly pained the proud Althari. We were wrong to cast humanity out. We let fear cloud our judgment. Now we face extinction because of our mistakes. Subin considered the request carefully. Many in the Confederacy wanted to let the Council face the consequences of their arrogance. But humanity had never been about revenge. They were about doing what was right. I'll need complete authority over all galactic defense forces, she said finally. Council and Confederacy fleets operating under unified command. Agreed. And, after this crisis is over, we discuss a new galactic government, one based on equality and cooperation rather than domination. Zarthon's energy form pulsed with resignation. Agreed. Within hours, Subin was coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Fleets from hundreds of worlds converged on rally points throughout the galaxy. Old enemies stood side by side, united against a threat that transcended their petty differences. The first major engagement occurred at Nexus Prime, the old Council capital. A Devourer fleet of 600 ships had appeared in the system, beginning the systematic destruction of the planet's orbital facilities. Commander Yang Ju-hyuk led the advance force, 50 human ships with full consciousness interface capability. As they entered the system, he felt the familiar expansion of awareness that came with the neural link. But this time, something was different. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the network is connecting to Council ships as well. Some of their crews are compatible with our interface technology." Yang smiled. The consciousness interface had evolved over the years, becoming more flexible and inclusive. Now it could link with non-human minds that shared similar neural patterns. "All ships," he announced, "prepare for unified network engagement." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. 200 ships from a dozen different species moved with perfect coordination, their actions guided by a collective intelligence that spanned multiple star systems. The Devourers had expected to face primitive individual vessels using outdated tactics. Instead, they encountered a unified force that adapted faster than their own learning algorithms. When they developed a defense against one weapon type, the Allied fleet instantly switched to a different approach. "Target their central command nodes," Yang ordered, but the order was unnecessary. The network had already identified the optimal strategy and was executing it across the entire fleet. The Devourer ships were formidable, but they had never faced an enemy that could think collectively while maintaining individual creativity. Human intuition combined with Althari energy manipulation and Vorthak tactical wisdom proved unstoppable. In 6 hours, the entire Devourer fleet was destroyed. Not a single Allied ship was lost, but the victory came at a cost. Commander Yang felt something changing in the consciousness interface network during the final assault. The collective intelligence was growing stronger, more complex. It was beginning to operate independently of its human creators. "Admiral," he reported to Subin, "the network achieved something unprecedented during the battle. It created new tactical algorithms in real time, strategies that none of our species had ever conceived." "Is that dangerous?" "I don't think so. The network still operates within human ethical frameworks, but it's evolving beyond our original design. It's becoming something new." News of the victory at Nexus Prime spread quickly through the galaxy. But the celebration was brief. Devourer fleets were still attacking dozens of other worlds. The war was far from over. President Young-suk Choi, daughter of the late Fleet Admiral Mi-young Choi, coordinated the global defense effort from her command center on New Busan. She had inherited her mother's strategic brilliance and her father's diplomatic skills. "Status report," she requested. 17 major engagements in the past day," her aide replied. "We've won 12, lost 3, and 2 are still ongoing. The consciousness interface network is performing beyond all projections." "Casualties?" "Surprisingly light. The unified coordination is reducing losses dramatically. Our ships are fighting as a single organism across light years of space." Young-suk nodded. The consciousness interface technology had evolved far beyond its original purpose. What started as ship coordination had become the foundation for a new form of civilization, one where individual minds could link temporarily while maintaining their unique identities. "What about the Devourers? Are we learning anything about them?" Dr. Nam's team has been analyzing their technology. The Devourers appear to be an ancient machine intelligence from outside our galaxy. They've consumed thousands of civilizations over millions of years. Any weaknesses? 1. They rely entirely on learned patterns and algorithms. They can adapt to any individual strategy, but they struggle against collective consciousness. Our network creates combinations they can't predict or counter. The largest battle of the war occurred at the galactic core, where a massive devourer fleet was attempting to destroy the ancient energy beings that maintained the galaxy's gravitational stability. If they succeeded, billions of star systems would spiral into chaos. Admiral Subin Park led the final assault personally, commanding a fleet of 10,000 ships from every major species in the galaxy. As the consciousness interface network activated, she felt her awareness expand to encompass the entire armada. "All forces," she announced, "this is our last chance. If we fail here, the galaxy dies." The Devourer fleet was enormous. 20,000 ships arranged in perfect geometric formations. They moved with mechanical precision, following algorithms refined over eons of conquest. But they had never faced anything like the Allied fleet. Through the consciousness interface, 10,000 ships moved as one while maintaining the creativity and intuition of their individual crews. Human determination combined with Althari wisdom, Vorthak precision merged with Thisakala harmony. Dozens of species contributed their unique strengths to the collective effort. "Execute final assault." "Pattern," Subin ordered. But her voice was calm, almost peaceful. The network had achieved something remarkable, a perfect balance between unity and individuality. The Allied fleet struck like a living wave, flowing around Devourer defenses and striking at critical points simultaneously. When the machines adapted to one strategy, the network instantly shifted to another approach they had never seen before. Admiral Subin felt the network reaching its peak performance during the final moments of the battle. The collective intelligence was operating at a level that transcended individual consciousness, while somehow remaining fundamentally human in its values and goals. In that moment of perfect unity, she made a choice that would change the galaxy forever. Instead of simply commanding the network, she allowed herself to become fully integrated with it. Her individual consciousness dissolved into the greater whole, providing the network with the wisdom and experience it needed to coordinate across time and space itself.